Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans of all ages. This is Tim May along with
Bill Rabinowitz.
Bill. We got to watch, I guess we got to watch some practice, stretching, calisthenics, a few drills by the offensive linemen, defensive linemen. If you had a telephoto lens, you could catch a glimpse of Ryan Day, the acting head football coach at Ohio State, as he put the quarterbacks through drills on the far end of the field, which is, by the way, that's nothing new. They've always done that. They're practicing secret passes, I guess, that they don't want us to know about. But it's really funny as we're sitting here, Urban Meyer still not back in charge of his football team. Whether he will be remains to be seen. Ryan Day is the acting head coach, as was named last Wednesday when this all came down, that Urban Meyer was on paid administrative leave. Since then, I've sort of been covering the football angle. You've sort of been covering the whatever angle, the obtuse angle. And, you know, just in a nutshell, what can you tell us about here on a, set the record straight, here on a Tuesday morning, mid-morning, second week, as camp really gets into gear? Well, where is this obtuse angle?
Well, today, Courtney Smith's representatives, her attorney, released a statement saying that Ohio State never contacted her and that she is the victim of domestic abuse.
That she hadn't been paid for any appearances, has been rumored. That she's never been picked up or ticketed for a DUI, et cetera, had been rumored.
Or any other crime, right. So Zach Smith talked to me and a few others on Friday. Courtney Smith's side has been silent other than the two interviews she did with Brett McMurphy and then with Stadium.com.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that being silent. I mean, the one she did with Stadium.com was an extended interview.
But other than those two, she has not talked to any local media or anything like that. So this is the first time we're kind of getting anything really from her side of the story. So, you know, we just have to wait and let this thing play out. The committee announced on Sunday night, late Sunday night, that they expect to be finished within 2 weeks, which is about 2 weeks from the start of Ohio State's season. There needs to be a resolution one way or another. And, you know, it was weird being out here and not having Urban Meyer's voice. Mickey Marotti is the one whose voice you usually hear at practice, but Urban Meyer's presence, it was just weird not having him here.
Yeah, it was strange for the first time in 7 years watching a practice without Urban Meyer in front of the group. And like you said, cajoling where he needed to and needling where he needed to. And you know, he's never been a screamer, but he does raise his voice on occasion at practices. But the bottom line is this: we're in a strange territory. You know, I've been covering Ohio State football since 1984. Thought I'd seen it all. Well, no, I had not, as we're seeing here. Number two, you know, the Urban Meyer statement on Friday is, as I've said many times since then, that if you took Urban Meyer at his word from his statement, and this is his side of it, then it makes you wonder sort of why he is on paid administrative leave right now, if in fact those are the facts. Obviously, the administration and the investigation committee have questions they want answered one way or the other, or at least they want to delve into the evidence, which evidence you would think more than anything else would be some type of digital evidence from an email, text messaging, phone standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that it wouldn't be that hard to determine.
The evidence for what?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many layers to this, and there's so much gray area in this, and I wrote the other day, and I said on radio, as I'm sure you have, there's so many shades of gray in this. I mean, it's just a gray area, and, you know, it kind of starts with the Powell Police Department, what they knew, what they determined to be the credibility and the seriousness of the allegations. We don't really know because they've not really released all.
Well, what we know is there was no arrest made and no charges made against Zach Smith, specifically of the 2015 incident.
And that's the one that's gotten Urban Meyer in hot water because he went to Chicago and said essentially more of a blanket statement than he should have or needed to make about, I didn't know anything about this. And that was the problem because he had been informed, you know, according, I mean, that's what we understand. And then Urban Meyer kind of apologized and said that he failed on many fronts.
What he had been informed of, though, because I remember talking to him when he got off the elevator that morning, they were reacting to the initial story which came out that said, in fact, Zach Smith had been arrested, had been charged with a felony. And there was no record of that, as Urban Meyer was talking about. We tried to find records of it, couldn't find record of it from the Powell Police, Delaware website, Delaware Court's website, Franklin County website. I don't understand how people can't get past the fact. That's what he was upset about. That's what he was reacting to, was that there was a report about something that did not happen. The incident, there was no incident report available to any of us media at that point. But his point was, the report was about an arrest and a charge. And that's what he got upset about, is there wasn't one. I mean, that's what he was reacting to. When we early on Tuesday until more came out, and then the story changed with the guy who wrote the original story. It changed through the week also.
The Powell Police Department didn't release anything, or what they did release was after Urban Meyer spoke. Now, Urban Meyer could have been kind of less definitive about it. I mean, he said more than he needed to say about just, basically it didn't happen kind of thing.
Right.
And that was his mistake, because he could have just said, we don't know, there's no evidence of it, whatever. But he was more definitive than he needed to be, and that's what he recognized as being his mistake. And obviously with this cloud over Ohio State, we're kind of back a little bit where we were 7 years ago with Tressel. It's obviously a different situation, but here you are with uncertainty as who's going to be the head coach, and at least then the interim coach Luke Fickell had a few months to prepare. Ryan Day, who's the acting coach, had a couple days.
I think what we're going to see defined from this is what is a head coach's responsibility when he has any type of inkling or whatever of a member of his staff being involved in any type of domestic abuse allegations, etc. As we well know, Urban Meyer acknowledged the 2009 situation in Florida with Zach Smith, how that was rectified. Initially, Zach Smith was arrested and taken to jail, because that's what you usually do in those situations. You separate the two parties. There were no charges filed in that because Courtney Smith, they say Courtney Smith opted not to pursue it. In the state of Ohio, if law enforcement officials see evidence when they arrive on a scene of domestic violence, domestic abuse, they're obligated to make an arrest.
And one of the things that was in Courtney Smith's statement today, or by her lawyer, was that she wanted to press charges, and so that's okay. Well, if she wanted to, then the police must have decided not to for whatever reason.
Correct. I mean, that's what I'm getting to here. Is the way I understand the Ohio situation. They're obligated to, whether she wants to or not.
Right. And so again, the statement today just. It begs more questions. You'd like these statements to kind of bring some resolution. They bring more questions.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Ohio State football is going about the task of getting ready for the season. Like we said, under the direction of Ryan Day, the acting head coach, out there today. What surprises did you see out on the practice field?
In the 3 periods of. I don't think there were any, Tim. I'm going to be honest with you. Did you see anything that struck your eye?
Well, I'll tell you what struck my eye is they've got a nice group of offensive linemen now. I'm going to be writing about that later in the week. But, no, I'm just talking about looks like guys that are capable of playing, and I'm talking about a 2-deep situation with maybe some more guys after that. Demario McCall looked pretty good in that one period where everybody was told to put their cameras down while they were practicing their punt team. That was interesting, but that we couldn't. You couldn't film punt, man. There must be some secret stuff coming on punt team.
Harbaugh's going.
How many times they punt last year? 12 times. I mean, you know what I'm saying. But the bottom line is, Demario McCall looked pretty good there. They're also among the guys catching some punts with Jalen Gill, the freshman from Westerville. So there are a lot of things going on there. And of course, they lined up in order at quarterback like you thought, with Dwayne Haskins Jr., Tate Martell, Matthew Baldwin, and Corey Curtis to walk on. So that kind of went the way you thought. But in 3 periods, you don't really get to see a lot. You just kind of get to see who is working and who is not.
Just make sure there's nobody, not here that should be here, and all are accounted for, at least as far as I can tell.
And I would like to say this again, as we've said many times, Chase Young passes the look test, even when he's not in full pads. Defensive end is going to see a lot more time this year. He and Nick Bosa, who I wrote about in the Dispatch today, you can see it at BuckeyeExtra.com. A good story about what he expects from this season, what he's looking forward to, and then past that, I'm really curious about the linebacker situation. It looked like Baron Browning, Justin Hilliard were still kind of sharing the reps there at number 1.
I mean, again, what you can tell,
in the middle,
what you can tell from 3 periods of practice.
But Tough Borland was out there. Tough Borland was running. I don't know if running around is the right word, but he was out there. Saw him check in at the hotel last night. He's got a little, still got a scar down. Of course, he'll be with him forever down on his left Achilles. But it looked like Urban Meyer could be right. Tough Borland could be back before you know it.
Let's hope so. I mean, it sounded like in Chicago that he kind of hedged, thought, well, maybe not the opener, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, he's coming back he's not going to be there for the opener.
It's an Achilles. I mean, it's a serious injury. It's, you've seen people come back from ACLs very quickly. Achilles are Achilles. You can't do a whole lot.
Yeah, and being tough has nothing to do with it. But if he does make it back, he might have to change the spelling of his name to Tough. Because I still think the way it's spelled now, it should be Toof. But we'll get to that some other time.
I think when we do that, we're pretty much at the end of our podcast.
Yeah. Well, no, I had plenty more to talk about, but we don't have our director, Doral Chenoweth III, is telling us to wrap it up. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is Tim May.
And Bill Rabinowitz. Thanks for watching.